Okay, so oops, let's turn this down here so you don't hear my scanner in the background. All right, so thanks for coming to my presentation today. I'm going to go ahead and play the video. I will be accessible during the video time in the chat window. If you have any questions or comments, I'll do my best to address them during that time. Otherwise, absolutely no problem waiting until the Q&A session. It's about a 22-minute video, if I remember correctly, and then we'll go from there. So let's go, and I'll hit the play button and get my ugly mug out of the picture here. Hello, thank you for choosing to watch my presentation, Contesting for the Absolute Beginner, Competing Against Yourself. It's my first time doing a presentation like this, so I'm super pumped about it. My name is Alex, call signs W3AVP. I have my email here because I would love to hear from you. Some feedback on this presentation, questions and comments. I guarantee you my inbox is open, and I'm more than happy to help you out. So, a little bit about me. Here's a picture of me from field day of this year. I have all my necessities there: citronella candle, there's a can of Mountain Dew somewhere, some DEET, got a fan. My head's not that cone shaped. I'm really sorry. Uh, but I was first licensed in 2018, right at the bottom of the solar cycle, which means I'm easily impressed by everything. I love chasing DX. That's like my main interest. I'll have you know, I did place number 960 in last year's CQ Worldwide Sideband contest, so that shows that I know everything. And I was 2006 Time Magazine Person of the Year. Go ahead and look it up. Uh, my gear, I run a Yaesu FT991A at 100 watts with the Cobra dipole antenna 25 feet up, facing east and west. I feel it's important that I let you know this stuff because it shows I'm just an average dude. I'm just a normal ham. I don't have a background in any of this. I'm in the medical field, so if I can do this, you can do this. That's kind of my take home on this on this slide here. There are some contesting myths we should dispel right away. Here are some beefy antenna farms. I'd love to have them, but you don't need them to do a contest at all. Those folks are out there and you will make contact with them, but you yourself don't have to have this in order to have a good time. Here is also a big beefy amp. I'd love to have one, but I don't. But you can certainly still contest without one and have great results. What is a contest, right? We should be able to define what we're doing here. This is my own definition. It's a radio contest is an event where operators try to make contacts with certain objectives within a defined time frame. All require some sort of exchange of information. So usually it's a weekend for the big ones, and there's a focus of what you're doing with that contest. Maybe you're operating a QSO party for a state, so you want to only contact folks in Pennsylvania, or maybe you're in Maryland and maybe you want to contact other folks. Sprints are maybe hour-long contests. They happen maybe once a week or so. They're very short. There are VHF, UHF only contests. It does include 6 meters. So for technicians, this is totally all very much within your wheelhouse here. The focus or the exchange can be maybe a DX entity, based on where you're from, ITU zone that you're in, CQ zone. The rules will tell you what it is you're looking to give out and receive, and they do come in all flavors: voice, CW, and digital. Not every contest does all three. Some might do one or two. Some might do all three. But certainly those flavors are out there. There's not really any rag chew that goes on in contests. It's kind of short and sweet and to the point, and then you move on. So this, if you're someone that likes to chit chat, totally fine, but maybe this might not be the time to do that. Why even bother, Alex? Why are we doing this? Well, it's where the QSOs are. I guarantee you that the bands are not dead. There's tons of activity, and I will prove it to you on the next slide. So there's not too much general CQing going on, or at least not as much as I thought there would be. So when it comes time for the contest, it's easy to rack up a lot of contacts. Like I said, there's no rag chewing with them, so maybe that's not what you're into. But this is one way to get your log kind of full. Mostly contests are on the weekends. Maybe that's when you have time to operate. So I feel that's important to know how to navigate a contest so you can make the most of your weekends. And there are times where you can become the DX or you can become the focus of the contest and folks want to contact you. Maybe you need one or two more states or more for worked all states. Well, I did not have any Hawaiian contacts for the longest time. Being in Pennsylvania, it was kind of hard. It was the bottom of the solar cycle a few years ago. So I waited for the Hawaiian QSO party. I had 10 contacts with Hawaii within three or 4 hours, just kind of hunting around and pecking when I had time. So go for it. So I told you bands are not dead, right? Here's a screenshot from a radio waterfall, not line. This shows it's a CW portion, probably about 50 or 60 different contexts going on here. This is 2 minutes before the end of a contest. I forget which one. It was one of the major ones, but this is 2 minutes to go to the end of the contest. Here's 1 minute after the contest ends. This is 3 minutes later. They're gone. There's what, four people on there? What happened? Did the bands shut down? Did the sun go dormant? No, people just stopped operating. So the bands are not dead. It's just folks aren't really calling CQ. And I'm guilty of that as well. Um, Also, why do this? Rare DX entities might be in play. I enjoy collecting those. So there are certainly stations that I hear on contest times I don't hear any other times because folks do take D expeditions to rare areas to work contests. Since there's less people participating in the contest, there's often less of a pileup to deal with. I have 100 watts in a dipole. I'm going to use every advantage I can to get my signal out and to make these contacts while still being ethical. So, hey, if this is one of those ways, I will do it. Here's a map showing some contacts I made during a contest. I was spinning around the dial and I heard 3 Bravo 8 Mike. I will tell you that from my own experience, any station that starts with a number is rare and I probably don't have it. So I called out with my call sign. He picked me up right away. I made the contact. I guarantee you that it would have not happened if it was a Wednesday night and he was just calling CQ from Marshall Island. There would have been a huge old pileup and I would have been buried. So just making the best of a situation, I was able to grab the contact. And on a side note, it is very common for DXpeditions to test their gear out a day or two in advance of a contest. So on a Wednesday or Thursday night before a big contest, get on the air, check out your spotting cluster web pages, and you're going to find some unique stations on the air getting ready for the contest. Go ahead and work them. They don't count for contest points, but it doesn't hurt to get the call in your log. Lastly, why do it is to hone your operating skills. Compete against yourself. Yes, I did post number 960 in the world, but I'll show you in a bit here. It was actually a lot better than that, and that's where I want to compete against myself. So set the bar 1 year, the next year try to beat that score. I feel that's an easy way to better myself. How do I do that though? Maybe learn a new mode. Perhaps I'll show you here. Maybe if you don't know CW, this might motivate you to learn a little bit, and then now you can operate in that mode as well and get some more points. Put up a different antenna. 15 meters is great to use. 10 meters is also good to use in contests. Maybe you don't have an antenna for those two bands. Go ahead and make one. This will increase your score if you can use those bands too. And of course, more time in the chair will also increase your score. But you have other things to do on the weekend. I totally get it. Here's a readout of my score for the IARU HF contest. So in 2019, I scored a whopping 462 points. The next year, I decided to learn some CW, and I was able to increase my score by tenfold. And then here's last year's score was 23,000 points, and I did upload my score for this year, which hasn't posted yet, and I think it was like 30,000. So as you can see, I was in the phone only mode at the bottom the first year. I was able to go to mixed mode because now I'm doing CW as well. So just trying to get better. I mentioned my awesome score of 960 in the world. I actually scored number 251 in America, and then here's where I like to kind of compete and check myself. Is I was ninth in my call district. I did check to make sure there weren't 10 people in that district. There was actually 36, I think it was, that competed that year. So I did well, and I'm hoping next year maybe I'll get number 7 or 6. So I think it's the best way to kind of get better. I mentioned you can become the DX, you can become the focus. So several contests encourage stations around the globe to contact you in the US, even your specific state. QSO parties, state QSO party is the best way to describe that. I'm in Pennsylvania, so for the Pennsylvania QSO party, people around the world want to contact me in Pennsylvania to get points. And there certainly are a lot of DX stations that do the QSO parties. So in this case, I'm the focus. The other one too, the ARRL International DX Contest, the rules for this, you maximize your points. So here, the bottom says here, if you're non-W/VE, if you're non-US or Canada, you want to contact each state, DC, Canadian province and territory once per band. Nothing here says you can contact a whole different country. If you're in Slovenia, you can't contact Croatia. You don't get points for that. Or if you do, you don't get a multiplier for it. So the focus is on you in the US. So I think it's pretty awesome. So we know what a contest is, we know kind of what they're about, but how do we find them? How do we know what's going on? Head over to the contest calendar. Contestcalendar.com is the easiest way to look at what's happening at any given moment or in the future for contests. So go to the website and click on 8-day. That stretch will show you um, the next week of what's going on, including the weekend. You can see here, this is when I'm recording, the weekend here, August 13th and 14th. So there's a few contests going on that I would like to do. One's the Work All Europe WAE DX Contest CW. That's going on for the full weekend. Keep in mind, these are UTC times. So if it says Saturday at midnight, it's actually Friday night for us here in the US, okay? You'll notice some of these small ones here, there's some sprints that are listed. They're very short, about an hour, hour and a half. When you click on any of those contests, the information screen comes up, and there's a lot of stuff on here, but don't worry about it. We're going to break it down. The first thing just to check is, can I participate in this contest? Am I allowed to? This one says participation is the world. I'm in the world. That counts. Mode, do I have any of those modes? Sure, I can do those modes, so that's good. How about the bands? Can you do any of those bands? I can do most of them. I can't do 160 or 80 meters, but I can do the other ones. So that would work out for me. Right above this next red block is the exchange. I didn't get that one circled, but I'm not in Maryland, so I'm non-MDC. So when I give a signal or a exchange, it's my class, which you have to look at the rules. I'm actually standard, and then your state. So standard, Pennsylvania. That's my exchange. I can work each station in this party once per band, per mode, per county. Holy moly. So I have but the potential to contact the stations multiple times and still get a bunch of points for them, which is really cool. And then you multiply your score at the end. It's all done by the software based on how many counties you contact. It says here non-MDC, each county gets you a multiplier. DC does, Baltimore City, you know. So it's all about the points, all about the multipliers, really. And it shows you how to submit your log. They want you to click on a link here to upload a file. Lastly, it does pay to look at the rules. So when you click on the links for the rules, they're usually very easy to read. They're concise. They don't want you to get bored and not find what you want. So don't be hesitant to look through the rules. In fact, the rules have this list here. If I'm doing the Maryland QSO party, what the abbreviations are for all the counties. Your logging software knows what is and what is not a proper abbreviation. So you want to make sure you type in the right one. So this weekend is the Maryland QSO party, the weekend that I'm recording this, not necessarily when the Expo is. And I am tuning around the bands, and I do hear a station calling CQ contest for the Maryland QSO party. So I'd like to show you guys what a typical exchange would be like, so you know. So let's go ahead, turn up our volumes. We'll hear what we hear.
Yes. Okay, and that means you're a standard station in North Carolina, okay?
So let me get his call, and I'll call out then.
Okay, thanks very much for calling in. This is Whiskey 3 India Delta Tango, Maryland QSO party.
Whiskey 3 Alpha Victor Papa.
With the Whiskey 3?
Whiskey 3 Alpha Victor Papa.
Alpha Victor Papa. A standard station in Montgomery County, Mike Oscar November.
Thank you. I'm also a standard station over here in Pennsylvania, Papa Alpha.
Papa Alpha, thank you. Other station?
And that's all there is to it. All right, so keep in mind, some bands are not allowed to be used during contests. So in 1979, a bunch of dudes got together, had the WARC conference, and agreed, it's not a law, but they agreed, no contesting on 13, 17, and 12 meters. Also on 60 meters as well. That wasn't around back then during the conference, but contests do not accept 60-meter contacts, so please treat it as a WARC band. We're going to touch on briefly on logging. Hopefully it's not a disaster like that. I don't feel it is. Logging software, all contacts that are submitted for a contest have to be in Cabrillo format. It's .log is the file name, .log. Okay, that's different from an ADIF file that you would use to upload normally to Logbook of the World or QRZ. All right, so keep that in mind. All contesting software has the ability to do this because that's what they do. That's why you have it. We're not going to watch it now, but if you head over to my club's website, w3rrr.org, click on presentations, I have a link to this YouTube video that I made on how to set up N1MM Plus logging software, how to install it, set it up, and then use it for a contest and make the files that you need. Okay. I promise to you I talk slower in that video. I'm a little bit pressed for time here, but I think it's a good video to watch. Or if you search on YouTube for N1MM Plus and my call sign, and it should pop right up. What's a dupe? You might see dupe or hear about a dupe or work a station. Go, hey, you're a dupe. We're a dupe. What is it? So a dupe is not worth any points, and in some contests can actually detract from your score. A dupe is when you try to work a station, and apparently you've already worked them. Now, we saw with the Maryland QSO party, you can work each station once per band, per mode, per county. So you may very well have the same station several times in your log. That's okay if it's within the confines of the rules. So here's why you won AAA. Apparently, I already worked him on 40 meters CW, and I'm trying to do it again. And the software is telling me, hey, well, hold on, I've already got him in the log. So then I would move on. We talked about that. This one here says like, work once per band. That's okay. So I've already worked him on 40 meters apparently. Here's some tips and tricks. These are things that don't fall into their own slides. So we'll kind of jam a bunch of stuff in here together and we'll kind of go through it. So submit your own logs as you would normally. Make those ADIF files, upload logbook of the world, QRZ, send QSL cards. I sent one to that 3B8M and I got one back. So certainly send QSL cards or logbook of the world stuff. Other stations do it as well. It's very, very common. Some bands are busier than others. 20 and 40 are packed all the time during contest time. If the rules allow for it, go ahead on 15 and 10. You get points, especially if it's work each station once per band. Here's some new bands. You can work those stations again and get some more points. I can tell you 15 is a pretty good band to use. There's not many people on it, not as many people on, I should say, as 20, and it kind of acts the same as 20. And I get a lot of contacts on it during contests. Consider waiting until day 2 of a multi-day contest or like the end of it, because the big gun stations still want their contacts, but maybe the smaller ones are kind of done. So there's less of a pilot for you to get through, and you might have an easier time making contacts. Everyone's a 5.9. I personally appreciate a true signal report when I'm operating perks on the air, we'll say, but for the sake of a contest, everything is 5.9. If you're doing CW 599 or 5NN or even ENN, if you're not familiar with your cut numbers, Google up cut numbers CW, and then you'll see kind of what I mean from that. I want you to know what to expect when all of a sudden you start hearing letters in with your numbers. If you forget, not if you didn't get it, but if you forget the serial number of an exchange, wait and listen for the next one, the next QSO, and then subtract one number to get yours. I'm not saying if you missed it, ask the guy, say, I'm sorry, I missed that. What was it again, and they'll give it to you. They want you to get it right because they want your points. So this is just a little tip. If you get flustered, listen for the next one, subtract one number, that's going to be yours. Check for a novice category. Some contests have a novice category if you've never worked that specific contest before, or if you're a new licensee, and you can enter that contest category and may get scored against other people that are also novices. So you might get a better placing at the end. Not everyone has that, but some do. Watch for dupes as the contest comes to a close. Chances are you've worked that loud station already a day ago, so just kind of be mindful of that. There are QRP categories in almost all contests. You don't have to have a QRP rig, just dial back your power if you want to try doing QRP stuff. If you're going to be repeating your call sign often to break a pile up or maybe call CQ, learn the voice memory function of your radio. Record that CQ, record your call sign one time, and then save your voice, save your fingers. And if you're going to be using it a lot, go ahead and use the playback function. It's easier. There's a big difference between someone calling CQ Maryland QSO Party and CQ Maryland. The first one is in Maryland and wants to contact anybody because he or she is in the party. CQ Maryland is anybody outside of Maryland looking for people in Maryland doing the party. So you don't want to contact the second guy if you're not in Maryland because you two can't make contact to get points. It's worth 0 points and there's no sense in doing it. So just kind of keep your ear open, kind of listen to what's going on around you. It might not benefit you to call CQ contest unless you have a big beefy amp. You might get drowned out, and it could just be frustrating. I don't want you to get frustrated during the contest. It takes away from the fun. Hunting and pecking has never failed me. I've gotten tons of points. Although, go ahead and try. There's nothing wrong at all with finding an empty spot in the band and calling CQ contest. You might be surprised at what happens. Who knows? VHF might be different. Everybody seems to have kind of the same power there at least, and you can certainly call CQ contest, and it shouldn't be too frustrating. Get a feel for how friendly the contest is. Some people really discouraged using extra words like "please copy my whatever, my number whatever," or "you're my number 12." They want just the number, just the class. Some people don't like that and they get mouthy. I'm sorry if you encounter any of that, but just kind of get a feel for how friendly the contest is. So, double dip. Why not? No reason why you can't activate a park on the air park or WWFF park while doing a contest. State QSO parties, perfect. I'm in Pennsylvania. I can go down the road to Kilo 1355 and French Creek State Park. So now I'm doing the Pennsylvania QSO party and I'm doing Parks on the Air activation. So I have all those people trying to contact me and I get tons of points. As long as the people contacting you give you the right exchange and you give it to them, even if they don't submit a log, it's okay if they don't submit a log. You should still get points for it. Okay. So, and ask them. Let's say you're at a park and they contact you. Hey, what's your ARRL section? If they don't know, help them look it up. It might be worth the points for you. Last part of this talk here, there are some fun contest activities to do within the contest. So the coolest one I think is the Kansas QSO party. They have a bunch of one-by-one special event stations where you use the last letter in that special event call sign to spell words out, such as Kansas, Sunflower, Yellow Brick Road, and QSO Party. So what they do is, for example, here's the available letters for Kansas. So if I'm going to go ahead and spell Kansas, I need to contact two stations. I'm sorry, one kilo station, like the last letter being kilo. Okay. So any of the first three. I need two ending in alpha, one ending in November, and then two ending in Sierra, and that gets me Kansas. And I can then double dip and take the S I use for Kansas to make the S in sunflower. Anyway, they make a little checkoff sheet, and you can go ahead and get all these contacts. And then what you do is they send you a certificate in the mail if you request it, and then based on how many words you spell, they give you these stamps to put on the certificate. So it's hard to tell, but I have two of the stamps here: the radio amateur one worth 5 cents, and then the one with Mr. Morris there. So and then you hang on to the certificate, and every year, if you make contacts to spell words, you then request more stamps. I think it's just the coolest thing. Lastly here, well, how about chasing a rover? So a rover is a station that moves during their contest to maximize multipliers. Very common in QSO parties and VHF, UHF contests where geographic confines are your exchange, for example, your grid square or your county. So a rover would move to a new county or a new grid square. And since they do that, it's not a dupe because now they're in a new county. So now you're contacting somebody new. And your logging software should know this as well. It's very common to find pre-posted routes with times. So here's 84EB Jim. Jim has a minivan that he operates out of. Here's his setup: radio, laptop, everything. Got a big smile on his face. And here's his view up front. There's his wife who's driving. She's also a ham. I forget her call sign, but she has probably just as important of a job as Jim does. So what she does is she drives this minivan while he operates. There's his HF antennas on the roof, and here's her route. She has it planned down to the minute, where she's going to be with Jim in the back, and you can follow them on APRS, and they usually stop at all the intersecting lines between the counties, because if you work Jim on a county line, you get both counties. In fact, one year he was in Texas, I think it was, and I got four counties at once out of Jim because he was parked on a line where four of them come together. So it was kind of fun to follow him on APRS and then see when he was in his next county and try to find him on CW. So that's all I got for you. I know it's kind of a little bit fast, but I want you folks to get out there and make some QSOs. What I don't want you to do is come home from work or have time on the weekend, turn on the radio and go, oh man, it's a contest. I'm done. I can't do anything. I feel you can. And hopefully you learned a little bit about how to do that and still have a good time. So please reach out to me via email. I'm more than happy to talk with you about this, answer questions, get some feedback, and I will turn it over to future me future whoever to do questions and answers. Thanks a lot, folks. Appreciate it.
Oh, hello. Thank you, past me. You're a pretty dashing dude. All right, I am future me. Alex here. So I do want to thank all of you for showing up to the presentation today. I had a lot of fun making the video. I have a lot of fun doing contests, and I hope that the information I gave you guys can help you navigate some. There are some going on this weekend. I think we saw them in the scrolling little chat thingy or the screen I had there. There's a couple of state QSO parties going on, and then coming up in the next few weeks are some of the bigger ones that are going on as well. So we have ample time for questions and comments. I'll be happy to take anything. I am monitoring the chat. Mark, KC3MDK, my moderator, is also going to be monitoring the chat for the sudden influx of questions. Just a couple things I do want to touch on. I was answering some questions during the video. So yes, the contest calendar website does list them globally. You'll find some you're not eligible for based on geographic location. So kind of take a look at the rule, not necessarily the rules, but of course do, but take a look at the information listed on the contest calendar page for that specific contest, and you'll see if it's something that you can utilize or not. Scott asked about mixed mode. When looking at the contest categories, you could enter just voice, you could enter just CW, or just digital if it has those components available, or a mixture of all of them. Um, some contests allow you to do just CW and voice and not do digital. So take a look. Now, if you are not operating one of those modes, let's say I'm not doing CW, just doing voice. I could enter the mixed mode category, but I'm not actually doing a mixed mode. So I might find myself lower in the standings if I want to compete against myself, because I'm being compared against a much larger pool of people who are using more modes. And we saw in one of the slides that the more modes you use, the chances are you're going to get more points anyway. Let me just take a look here. So contesting software for Macintosh, boy, that's a good question. I don't know. I know they're out there because obviously folks are using Mac, but I'm sorry, I'm not sure if it comes down to now my do they make Windows emulators, I think, to run Macs, to run Windows stuff in Mac. You'd have to Google on that one. I'm really sorry, I don't have experience with that kind of thing. I do use N1 Plus. I like it because I feel it's easy to use. There's lots of buttons and doodads on it. If you check out the video that I made, and I promise you I talk a lot slower in it, we mentioned you can go to on YouTube, N1 Plus, and then my call sign, W3AVP, or if you head over to my club's website, W3RRR.org, it'll be in the presentation section. What's nice about it is you can then take away all those extra buttons that you don't need, and it looks like a pretty clean interface. The one I showed in the video, in fact, I wonder if it would behoove me to do this. All right, let's see here. Let's see if this works. We got time. But when you do log, the version I have here is very stripped down. There's lots of buttons I don't have on here. You can set it up to do like automatic keying for you, or if you're doing CW, or to play um, your voice back. I've heard people work contests where I'm talking to someone who's just pushing buttons to respond back with pre-recorded audio, and that's totally fine. So that is a possibility with this. The other common used program is N3FJP. I personally am not a fan of that. It's just my own recommendation, my own experiences. I've had lots of problems with it. That's why I try to stick with N1 Plus. Plus, it's free. N3FJP is in most circumstances not free, or it is after a certain, or it's not until a certain number of contacts, like that kind of thing. Taking a look around here. Uh, Sterling, I do appreciate the comment regarding the presentation. Actually, I was contacted by a group asking if I would give this presentation at one of their club meetings via Zoom. I'm open to that. I have a couple other presentations. One's about QSLing, be it electronic or by cards, how to do that, how to get involved in your local bureau to get. There's probably QSL cards waiting for you at your local bureau. So I talk about how to get those. I think I have one about packet radio and how it's still very much relevant now, and I did one about digital modes, like a very brief introduction to that. So that kind of stuff. Oh, here's a gentleman here. Anthony uh, lists some Mac software for contesting. Looks like Skookum Logger. Definitely check that out. I might check it out just so I'm a little more well versed in it. I don't have a way to run it, but we'll see how that goes. So yeah. Ooh, perfect. Thank you. That's my moderator, guys. My moderator did that. I appreciate that. Um, but yeah, get on the air this weekend. I didn't touch on it too much in the video because I didn't want it to cause confusion. But you really hold on. I'm the focus here. There we go. It is possible to make context during a contest and then you not submit a log. So if you were chasing some rare DX and you heard it on there and you wanted to go ahead and just kind of grab it for your log, you can do that as long as you play by the rules. So if that gentleman, let's say in Marshall Island, he wants a number, I need to give him a number. And even if I don't submit a log, usually, as far as I can tell from all the research I've done, he will still get the points even if you don't submit a log, as long as you play by the rules. What I mean by that is, let's say he wants a serial number. So I give him number one, and maybe he's my first and only contact with this contest so far, and I have no intention of submitting a log. I then cannot work someone else later on. Let's say someone trips over the line to North Korea and then operates from there. And of course, everyone's going to want that. I can't give him number one again. That would be wrong, and then neither of them are going to get points. And that's kind of douchey on my behalf. So give him number two. Even if you don't submit a log, still play by the rules because it's good for everybody, and you're going to feel good that you didn't screw somebody over like that. Don't think I have much else. Am I supposed to just kind of like stare at the screen? I don't know. I appreciate the thank yous. You guys were great. I was kind of hoping to see how many folks were watching this. It doesn't show you on my back end here, but that's okay. Do use my email. I want to be very accessible. Even if you're like, it's contest weekend and you're like, oh shoot, Alex, what do I do? Send me an email. It goes right to my phone. Got my watch on. I'll be happy to help you out. We'll find out what the exchange is. You heard in the little clip I made where I was contacting the guy from the Maryland QSO party. When I turned up my volume so you could hear what he was doing, we caught the tail end of a previous QSO, and this is showing how friendly some of these contests are. People want your points. The gentleman he must have been talking to, I think it was in North Carolina, was unfamiliar with what was going on, and he said, "Oh, that means you're a standard station in North Carolina." So he must have, asked the guy, "Well, how many watts are you running?" Because that's usually kind of what determines some of your categories. And he said, oh, "Okay, that makes you a standard station." So don't be afraid, especially with the state QSO parties, to get out there. People want to. Um, engage. They want the points, so they want to help you out with it. And if you don't know your exchange, they want to make sure they can help you get that. Austin asked me, what kind of antennas am I using for the contest? I have a Cobra dipole, and I'm going to tell you, it comes from let's do this. I always think when I say Cobra, people are going to think it's like Cobra, like the CB radio. um, it is from K1JEK, Kilo 1 Juliet Echo Kilo.com, and it's a I ain't going to share my screen, but it's a dipole. So if you think about it, it's fed by ladder line, and it meets the center point, and then it goes out. And when it gets to the end, it loops back around in on itself, doesn't touch the middle again, but loops it back around again and comes back out. So it's like a snake, like a cobra. And that's my antenna. I've got it up 25 feet in the air. I made two very janky, probably dangerous masts out of two 10-foot sections of top rail fence stuff available at Lowe's, and I joined them with some screws and some PVC pipe, which slid right over it, and I put a little bit of extension on the top of it for a few more feet, and I have it run between the two masts there. It bends like crazy in the middle, but it's pretty tight, and I'm happy with the results. And that's really what it comes down to. Is sure, the antenna may not be ideal, but when you look at your logbook and you see that you're making contacts halfway around the world, then I mean, is it really that bad? I really don't. I really don't think so. So don't be afraid. I mentioned I don't have 80 meter capabilities. This antenna that I have doesn't do 80 meters. I don't quite have room on my lot for it. But what I did one year was, I was able to have a manual antenna tuner, and I was able to squeeze 80 watts out of that and antenna. I have no idea what's going on inside the tuner. There's probably all kinds of arcing and sparking going on. I don't even know, but I was able to get a decent SWR on it, and I tried to work stations in Virginia for the Virginia QSO party, and I got a decent number of contacts on it. So it's kind of fun to play around. If you've noticed that maybe you make a lot of contacts with a certain state, so you have like a direct pipeline to them, it seems, find out when their QSO party is. You might do pretty well. I seem to have a pretty good pipeline over to Ohio on 40 meters, and I can technically seem to always get 40-meter contacts with Ohio on Parks on the Air. So I should probably try their QSO party. And really, Parks on the Air is kind of a good gauge of how well you can hear a certain state, because if you think about it, most likely when they're operating at a park, it's probably a non-ideal circumstance or really compromised antenna setup. So if you can hear them pretty well during a compromised situation, you're probably going to do a pretty good job if they're at home during their QSO party. Um, yeah. What else we got? I feel like I'm some popular Twitch streamer here. Sorry for the headset. I know it's people have like the nice boom mics and stuff, but I like to do the things here. I guess let's see. So good question. Scott wants to know, how do I align my antenna? Do I change it up during contest time, or if I'm trying to get certain areas? With my dipole, the way it is, it's stationary. It faces east to west, so it's kind of that's my area. However, the radiation pattern of the dipole, supposed to be very omnidirectional with slight nulling at the ends a little bit. If you look at the antenna modeling pictures of a dipole, I have found that 15 meters, I don't know if it's just magic or what. I tend to get a lot of Caribbean contacts on 15 meters during contests. And based on my location and the east-west facing of my antenna, they're really not east-west. That's more like a south-southwest or south-southeast rather. But I seem to do pretty well. I hear them just fine, and they give me back good signal reports. I know it's a 5.9, but even during non-contest times, I get decent reports, and I'm able to break some pileups. Sometimes too, if the conditions are just right, I'll be able to get a lot of 10-meter contacts in South America recently, which I think is pretty cool because it's 10 meters and everybody likes that. And that's definitely not east to west. That's almost right straight south to me. So I I have not felt the need to orient my antenna a different way um, to make it happen, and I'm happy with results. Of course, having a rotatable and antenna would be great. If you are working a state QSO party, I guess it would be beneficial to aim your stuff right at that state. My logging software that I'm using, I personally like N1 MM Plus, November 1, Mike Plus. There are plenty of them out there. There really are. There's tons. There's DOS-based ones if you want to type on the screen like that. There's all kinds of things out there. A Mac one was referenced not long ago. If Mark could put that back on the screen. Um, I did make a video to show kind of how to set it up. If you wanted to go my club's website, Whiskey3 Romeo 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 W3RRR.org, has it in the presentation section. I guarantee you, I talk a lot slower. Also, if you go on YouTube and type in N1MM plus my call sign W3AVP, it should pop right up. And then you can kind of watch it. It's about a 40-minute video, but I have it all time stamped until I go right from turning on your computer and having a blank screen. How do you get the software? How do you install it? And how do you set it up? Um, there's a special order on how to install it because it runs updates. What's nice is the updates for that logging software, what they're updating is they're updating the definitions of the contests. What are the rules for this contest, so the program knows for you. So more often than not, when you load up the software, let's say on a Saturday morning, it's going to say, hey, do you want to update? You probably should. It's quick. It does it all right within the program there, and then it restarts the program. But what it's doing is it's updating the definitions and the rules of the contest so you don't make a mistake, which is I think is pretty cool. Because if you actually check the change log or the patch notes, it tells you kind of what they're changing. Well, of course it does. That's what the patch notes are. But it's telling you why. It's just the definitions of the contest for the most part. Other ones out there, N3FJP, November 3, Foxtrot, Juliet Papa, very common software. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I've had some issues with it, and I don't think it's very user friendly. I don't want to poop all over it, but I don't like it. Sorry. Um, but as long as it makes that Cabrillo log in the end, .log, that's the one you need. .abi or the ADIF ones, that's for logging your own personal stuff, and you can generate both within the software. You go to one button, you hit export, and exports it to logbook of the world type stuff. The other one says generate Cabrillo file, so that works out. I think it's pretty easy to use. I'll give it another couple minutes here. This will be available. I guess they're having it on the website available for such a time after the presentation, after the expo ends. It's pretty good. If you don't have a chance to watch it again and you have questions, please grab my email. Hold on, I have a thing here. If I go here, if I click this, look at that fanciness. Yep, my inbox is always open. I'm happy to answer questions on stuff. I don't know, I want you guys to do well. And I think it's kind of fun to set the bar one year and then come back next year and go, you know what, I want to beat the score a little bit. And I have kind of, I there are times where I find I have more time to sit in the chair, and of course, ultimately, I guess more time in the chair is what gives more points in the long run. Really, it's the multipliers that you get. But I kind of back down a little bit because I don't want to go all out, because then the next year I'm gonna have a hard time going all out. But I just feel good if I beat my score and kind of move on from there. Definitely a way too. I mentioned that I had a hard time getting some Hawaiian contacts until the QSO party came around. What ultimately was my final contact I needed for Worked All States was Wyoming. I think there's 3 operators in all of Wyoming, ever, and then during their QSO party, all 3 of them were on the air, so I was able to grab them, um, and then they all did confirm and logbook the world. So that was a big help for me. Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too, seeing that those 2 screenshots I showed from the contesting time, one being 2 minutes before the end of the contest, and one being 1 minute after. That's actually a live video. Well, that was it was a recorded video that I was watching, and as soon as that clock struck, within 10 seconds leeway, it just shut right down. Everyone just stopped operating. And I mean, I've done it. I'm sure you've just set your butt in the chair for the whole weekend, and you probably want to get up and, I don't know, maybe remember who your family is, see their faces, and, oh yeah, it's my wife and kids. Um, I get it. It's hard for me to say things like, oh, there's not much CQing going on. I really haven't been a ham for that long. 2018, I don't feel that's a very long time. But I have noticed, I guess, during studying for the technician tests and being exposed to the hobby before I became licensed, I thought, oh wow, I'm going to spin the dial. Everyone's calling CQ. I'm going to pick whoever I want. Even with conditions getting better, I really don't hear that many people calling it. I think it's programs like Parks on the Air that really is bringing a lot of activity to the bands. It's not a contest. People have sometimes, gotten some flack from being on the WARC bands doing Parks on the Air. I'm getting off on a little tangent here, but it is not a contest. So don't worry about operating that on WARC bands. In fact, WARC bands, that's going to be your friend if you're trying to do Parks on the Air at a park during contest weekend. 17 meters acts a lot like 20. I mean, you're going to get a ton of contacts, and people are going to want to follow you there. Um, I guess the other aspect of this presentation was, if you want nothing to do with contests whatsoever, I showed you in that one slide, just, stay off those specific bands for the weekend and be on 17, 60, 30, 17, and 12. And 12's been open a lot recently. So you should be able to get some good contacts. I don't know if you hear a lot of CQs or not, but all right, let's see here. Anything else? Any other questions, I guess, before I close it off? It's 11:43 a.m. here. I'll give it till, like, I'll say 45, so a couple minutes. Um, I guess we're allowed to, like, stop it early. Nobody wants to watch me just stare at the screen for the next 15 minutes, I don't think. I thought about having my radio up and then, like, spinning around the dial for the QSO party that's going on, but I'm not set up for that at this time. So maybe next time, maybe next year if they let me come back. I don't know. All right. I think we'll call it. I appreciate it. I do. All of you showing up here, it means a lot. Check out the video. To be available on the site, I believe, for a month or so afterwards. Um, Looks like too, here, Anthony placed in the chat real quick that there is another intro to contesting going on, coming up. I don't know if the chat's available to everybody. I think it is, but if it's not, let me pop it on the screen here, see if that works. So I'm going to give a couple answers here. Kathy wants to know, which radio do I use? I have a Yaesu FT991A, the Shack in the Box radio. It's 100 watts. I don't have an amp. So when I enter contest categories, I'm usually in low power, and you'll see there's usually it's QRP, low and high power, usually, and they will tell you in the rules, or even on that contest calendar site, what defines each of those categories. So usually it's 100 watts or less is the low power. Some say 150, but it'll be 100 watts or less is low power, and anything above 100 watts is high power, up to legal limit. So that means that I could, if I was a QRP station, I could enter the low power category if I really wanted to. It might not be my best idea because now I'm being compared or competing against other people who are running more power, who are probably going to get more points. Um, but yeah, I just 100 watts for me. I'm very happy with results I have. So that I would love an amp. I joke about it all the time, but I don't think I personally need one right now. Which bands are prohibited? So good question. The prohibited bands are going to be the WARC bands, WARC. It's 60 meters, 30 meters, 17, and 12. Did I miss anything on that? I don't think so. In fact, let's do this. I got a minute, right? All right. Let's see here. Scrolling through the slideshows of not the easiest thing, but anyway, yeah, 13. I'm sorry, 60, 30, 17, and 12 meters. No contesting on those. It's not illegal. It's a gentleman's agreement from the WARC Council that met back in the 70s, um, but no contesting organizations accept contacts on those bands. Plus, I'm pretty sure I can almost guarantee you, if you say CQ contest, you're going to get people coming out of the woodwork on 17 to tell you, "Whoa, hold up there, buddy. You ain't from around here, are you?" All right, let's get rid of this here. All right. And when I said which bands are prohibited, check the contest category. I'm sorry, the contest calendar or the actual rules for the site for the contest. I mean, there are 10-meter only contests. In fact, coming up the end of the year, I believe, is the ARRL 10-meter contest. Well, it's only going to be 10 meters, so that's kind of obvious. But there's that kind of stuff too. But if it's contests that involve all bands, it's all bands except for 60, 30, 17, and 12. All right, let's call it. Let's call it, folks. If you're typing out a whole paragraph with a huge question, you can email me. Hold on, I got a button for that. There it is. So, yep, go ahead, shoot me an email. I guarantee I'll respond back. And we'll go from there. All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a good time this weekend. Go ahead, hop on the air. I mean, don't dodge any of the other cool presentations that are going on. There's a few I want to watch, but there are some state QSO parties going on, and then some other major contests kind of coming up in the next few weeks. So thanks for coming, and we're gonna shut her down. Where's the button? Oh, I got it. All right. See you guys later. Take care.